Ladies, it seems at the moment that Junior is born, the doctors and nurses, they slip a pair of mommy goggles on you as you're recovering, and your whole world is different. How you see the world is different. Often you'll find that the world is a more threatening place after you have a baby, and you're in constant pursuit of trying to keep that tiny new human alive. But these mommy goggles also impact other things too. Home life drastically changes, and if you're not careful, those piles of laundry that you're so annoyed by may supersede your husband's need to connect with you at the end of the day. Marriages take a hit from welcoming a new child into the world, but they do not have to be destroyed. It's important for new moms to put a few things into perspective. In today's podcast episode with Relationship Helpers, Vincent and myself are going to discuss 4 things new dads need to hear from their wives.
Right. So, welcome to Relationship Helpers. So, Laura, how have you been doing?
You mean with saying these 4 things to you?
Well, maybe that, yes.
Well, as we record, I was just discussing with Vincent before we pressed the record button that I'm a little bit sleep deprived as we speak, and
it's hard to get a lot of sleep, huh, with the little one that says,
it is.
Mama, mama,
mama, mama. Right. But, ironically, that is the topic of today in a way. And also, mothers, we're not operating on all cylinders. It really doesn't feel that way anyway. So that can really impact the way we interact with other people, especially our husbands.
Right. So what we're saying here, I think the big thing with each one of these is you've just got to be very, very intentional about these things, because if you just go on your regular
autopilot,
which
just
what you're used to, that this just won't happen. It'll bypass you, because it does. It takes some thought and some energy. And most times mothers, or just even if it was fathers or either way, people aren't thinking in this realm, I guess, all the time.
I think that we're kind of having to counteract nature in a way, because we're hardwired. God made us to be very hyper vigilant when a baby comes into the world, because that new child has no way to fend for itself, and so we're constantly thinking about what needs to be done for the child, which, when you're married and newly married, you're constantly thinking about your relationship. Or even before you're married, when you're dating, you're always thinking about your significant other.
Well, you're trying to, yeah. We're all, I guess when we're single or when we're all, of course, to a certain extent, just self-centered. And then when we get married, hopefully we get somewhat relationship-centered or centered on the other person. And, of course, you're supposed to be God-centered in all this as a Christian, but, this is just how it is. And then, as you were saying, when you have a baby, then
you kind of get hyper-focused.
It can be, yes. It can be for a mother especially. Well, a father, too. They can get just baby-centered, miss out or lose out not only on their husband in that relationship, but even maybe a relationship with other children or other people, friends, family, and of course our relationship with God.
True, and it's possible that a mother could make their baby, or her baby, I should say, like an idol if you're not careful.
Yes.
That may be another podcast episode.
Maybe so, yes.
But so it's important that the mother remember a few things. This isn't me ragging on mothers. It's just we thought it would be a good topic to discuss today from our perspective, what we're seeing as we're newer parents. So, we're kind of in the throes of this as we speak. But anyway, it's just important that we remember that the child that a mother remembers that the child that she's had is going to move out and pursue adulthood on their own someday. And because of this, the nest that you're building right now needs to be able to stand it needs to be able to stand 18 years later, after your child has moved on and become an adult. And that basically means, hey, this nest that you're building right now, what's going to be left is Papa Bird.
Right.
Papa Bird's left. That relationship you have with your man, your husband, still needs to be solid, and it needs to be nurtured while you're nurturing that little one.
Yes.
So it's important while you're navigating motherhood to keep some things in mind. One thing to keep in mind is don't expect a free pass from being a good wife, because motherhood is hard. You're still married to this man who found you sexy when you dated. Knock, knock. He's still in there.
Right. So there's still these responsibilities of being married.
That's right. That's right. And I understand that new mothers, especially first-time mothers, are overwhelmed. And the idea of having to add more things onto a running list of to-dos might seem laughable. But doing these things now really can save you some heartache and possibly the need for marriage counseling and even worse, a divorce lawyer later on.
Right. And of course, I mean, husbands should be understanding with a new child that these things kind of suffer during that time. However, but if a wife or mother at least attempts to focus on some of these that we're going to talk to you about, then it will just make things a lot better.
Right.
Make a stronger family.
Right. These are attempts at connection, and that's
Right.
what's needed. Attempts at connection. So as vocal as women can be, sometimes we're not good at saying some things. So here are a few things today that I feel, and that Vincent has agreed that are good for men to hear.
Right.
Okay, so the first one, I'm proud of you. It's overwhelming to raise a newborn and care for one. A new father feels an incredible drive to succeed in making sure that he's providing for his family.
Right. So the father, many times, they feel a lot of, this is what I get from my couples that I hear, that they feel anxiety over the child. Now, they may feel anxiety about how to take care of them. They feel uncomfortable, some fathers, about how to take care of a small baby or children. And so what do? They go to work. They work harder. They spend time working. They maybe extra hours working, bringing in more money. And that's what they do to contribute to the family, to alleviate, or at least, to provide, to...
So, Vincent, you're seeing this as a therapist. I see this as a therapist as well. And so basically what it is just because he may be away from the family for periods of time, it doesn't mean that he doesn't care.
Right. So I have these fathers that are sacrificing. I mean, they are, I've had one that was, I've had one or two. They may be doing just a ridiculous amount of hours traveling. It may be 2 hours one way. I mean, my goodness, for a while, just to make sure that things are well. Or actually going to, being gone for a certain period of times when they don't want to be gone. They really don't, but they're doing that to make sure that they provide for the family.
So it's really important that wives show their husbands how grateful they are for all that they've done for them. I mean, we'll find over and over again in self-help literature that men need to be shown respect. It doesn't hurt to be specific in your praise, too, women. For example, saying something like this: I know that getting up so early in the morning to drive an hour to work and deal with your demanding boss and then driving back with an hour of traffic, it wears on you. I appreciate how hard you work for us. I'm proud of you.
Right. So men do that. Men need to hear respect, that their wives respect them, that they're proud of them.
Next, men need to hear that we make a great team together. Many men feel left out when a new baby enters the scene. The mom may feel scattered, distant, and probably a bit demanding at times. And if she's not careful, she's excluding her husband from being a part of the family. And when this happens, resentment can build up between parents, developing kind of a you versus me mentality. We see this a lot in therapy.
Right.
It's important that the new mom give him messages or send him messages that he's important to the family, that she shows him how important he is to the family. This can mean involving him in some of the care of the baby.
Right. So this is really communicating how both of you can help take care of the baby or take care of the children, and what can be done so that you are a team. So if you have other little ones, you have other children, maybe this is where he takes care of more of them so the mother can be with the baby. Maybe him as far as taking them to the park or just entertaining them or doing family time together. And not just him doing that. I know that many fathers do that, but it's the mother talking about how, wow, we really work as a good team. You do a great job of alleviating, taking these the other older ones away and entertaining them and really giving them a lot of good time. And I really appreciate that. And I think we do a great job. And sometimes there's, I don't know mothers do that, but sometimes these mothers maybe forget. They're so overwhelmed with taking care of the baby, they forget of how good that is. Because, of course, we meet with single mothers as well, where they don't really have that option at all. And they're overwhelmed with, maybe 3 kids, and one of them's real little. So...
Right. A measure of gratitude really goes a long ways. It can be really easy to get caught up in your chaotic life and forget about all the good things that you've got going on. And yet again, your relationship with your husband can get kind of thrown under the bus in all this as well. And if you lose sight of the things that you're grateful for in your new life with your husband and your baby, it can really be detrimental, and it can really, really kind of spawn some depression in mothers.
Right.
When you lose sight of the good things that you've got going for you. So another thing that men need to hear is, I want to spend time with you too.
Right. So this is where the mother is actually expressing, hey, I want to set aside some time, just the two of us. This is where, this is very intentional. All of these are very intentional, but this one is specifically very intentional because this is where they're communicating that they want to spend time together, but it's also planning out that time or allowing for that time to spend together. And for some young mothers, that's really difficult to do. They are nervous or they're afraid of spending time away from the baby. But this is very important for them to continue a healthy relationship with her husband. So
some of the things that the new mother may need to do is be very intentional about the first, expressing that she wants to do this with her husband.
Right.
Second, planning that it's going to happen.
Right. Or allowing to have some plans there.
And this could mean having a date night where you plan to have a babysitter care for the child, or it could mean something as maybe simple as being intentional about the time that you spend after the baby is put down for the night.
Maybe.
Where the two of you are able to maybe spend some time one-on-one while the baby's sleeping. I know some mothers really struggle with trying to get housework and other kinds of work accomplished while the baby's asleep, and so they have a tendency to avoid their husbands during this time.
Right, when maybe they should just leave the house alone and leave the things alone and spend time together is what's more important.
So that may be something you need to be in communication with your husband about. He may rather you sit and talk to him for 15 minutes or watch a TV show or something together rather than you taking that 15 minutes to unload the dishwasher because you didn't get it finished.
Right. So that means really sacrificing housework to spend time with your husband if that's the case.
Yeah, but you don't know it unless you communicate.
Right. It's talking about that, and it's being very intentional about that.
All right. So the next and the last thing that I think is important that new mothers communicate to their husbands is that their dads are awesome. That their husbands are awesome. That they're great. Words of affirmation really go a long way. And if you're a new mom, you're just as much a new mom as he is a new dad.
Right, and if he's a new dad, then he's not so sure of himself in many areas as well, that he's doing it right, or that he's holding the little fragile infant the right way, and that he's, especially if it's crying all the time, am I really doing a good job, or what's going on here, or...
So, ladies, you're not the only ones insecure in this situation.
Right. So there may be men that are insecure, very insecure, and their distance from the baby is really just their insecurities about it.
Right. They mean well.
Yes, they mean well. They love the child. They just don't know what to do. They're just oblivious as how to care, how to nurture, how to love the little infant.
Well, and inevitably, if the mother is spending so much time with the baby, then the father's not getting experience.
Right. So this is, and especially if the mother is saying, no, you're not holding his head right. No, you're not doing this right. No, you need to do this. Not to say that what they're saying is, they need to tell them correct ways, but, it can be a barrage of negative things or criticisms, or I don't know.
Well, it needs to be gentle, constructive criticism. I mean, if it's about the baby's care and its safety.
Yes, yes, of course, they need to communicate those, but sometimes, there may be some men that are more sensitive, I guess, in those areas. Not that I am, but necessarily, but those are some things. So basically, we're getting back to saying some positive affirmations. And I know with my couples, you may be amazed at how many men have words of affirmation as their love language, and that's really what they need a lot of.
So what we're really saying is that these fathers need to know, they need to hear from their wives just how special they are.
They do, and some more than others. Words of affirmation is not my love language. Necessarily, mine's acts of service. So, wash my dishes, I'm happy, or something like that.
That's why I talked about communicating that earlier.
Yes, so it's understanding that. But for some men, it is words of affirmation. So this may, like I say, may be more important to them than to say to me or to someone else. Versus, that quality time together, that spending time together. For some men, it may be physical touch, or maybe that quality time that they really need and they feel loved.
So sometimes married moms feel like they're going at it alone, when a lack of communication is keeping the parents from feeling close and appreciated. Telling your husband why he's an awesome dad, really it shows that you're paying attention. You're paying attention to him.
Right, you're noticing what he's doing.
Well, we're coming to the end today. Just to kind of recap, we've got 4 different things here that are important and good things to say to your husbands. I'm proud of you. We make a great team. I want to spend time with you too. You're an awesome dad. Starting a new family, it's really challenging. Days seem to run into each other. Sometimes you may feel that you need off the crazy train.
Right.
Wives, to prevent things from getting more difficult, remember these things and say them to your husband, and say them to them often.
Right, and if you're wanting to work on the communication, we do have other episodes, that we talk about specifically just communication in marriage. So make sure you check out those episodes that Laura and myself has. One's about ways that you break down conversations, or unhealthy ways that we do that. Another one is talking about the painter-pointer typology, where I talk with Dr. Ludwig. Those may be some very helpful podcasts to listen to if you're struggling with communicating with your spouse and needing a little bit more guidance on that.
Right. If you listen to those episodes, you will find some really powerful skills, and if you take those things on, you take them to heart,
right,
you will really improve your relationship. You'll improve your relationship. So if you do nothing else but keep that new baby alive and say the things that we talked about today to the new dad in your life, imagine what your family life could be. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes, and make sure you go to relationshiphelpers.net to see our show notes. So we'll have links there, And you can also go and find these other episodes that may interest you as well, where you can find, there's also an episode on date night. So if you're interested in ideas on that and maybe how to go about it, that may be helpful as well. So again, that's relationshiphelpers.net, and we just really appreciate all of those for listening, and we appreciate the comments and feedback that you give us. So continue to do that. Let us know what you think about the episode, and just continue to let us know what you would like to hear us to discuss and go more in depth with.
Thanks for listening.
Goodbye.
Note that accuracy and authority in regards to the subject matter covered today is not a replacement for professional care. Neither the host, the clinicians, or the guests are rendering clinical or other professional advice. Seek professional help if you need it.